Have you ever seen someone who believed they were untouchable? The kind of person who insults everybody, cheats everyone, and laughs while other people cry? Well, in Lagos, there's one thing people always say. No matter how fast lies run, truth they wear slippers, but ego still reach where they go. This is the story of a woman who thought money could buy respect, until karma knocked on her gate wearing size 12 boots. And when that gate finally opened, nobody, not even she herself, was ready for what walked in. My name is Femi Adebayo. If you ask anybody in Surulere about me, they'll tell you one thing. Femi no dey find trouble. I was 34 years old, worked as an accountant in a medium-sized logistics company on Victoria Island, and lived with my wife Amaka and our 6-year-old daughter Zara in a modest rented flat. Life wasn't perfect. Every morning, I joined the endless Lagos traffic with thousands of other people, squeezed into a Danfo bus where the conductor always shouted like somebody owed him money. Oshodi, CMS, Obalende, enter with your change o. The bus would be packed tighter than sardines. One person carrying live chicken. Another person selling phone chargers. Someone shouting into their phone. Another sleeping despite the chaos. When I finally got to work, I'd spend the whole day balancing figures while praying NEPA wouldn't take light before I finished entering reports. Then I'd return home around 8 p.m., exhausted. My wife would welcome me with hot egusi soup or jollof rice if payday had smiled on us. Our daughter would run into my arms. Daddy, guess what happened today? That small hug alone could erase the stress of Lagos traffic. Life was simple, until Mrs. Bukola Adeyemi moved into our compound. She arrived like a governor relocating to Aso Rock. 3 SUVs, 2 moving trucks, housemaids, security men, even the landlord was smiling from ear to ear. Our compound had only 6 flats. Everybody knew everybody. Children played together. Women borrowed pepper and onions from each other. Men gathered outside every evening, discussing football, politics, and how fuel price had gone up again. Peaceful. But peace packed its bags the day Bukola arrived. She stepped out of her black Lexus, wearing sunglasses bigger than my television screen. Designer handbag, gold jewelry, high heels clicking loudly on the interlocking pavement. She looked around the compound, removed her sunglasses slowly, and frowned. So this is the place? The landlord laughed nervously. Madam, don't worry. Very quiet compound. She looked at our balconies, then at our drying clothes, then at the children playing football. I hope these children won't be making noise. Nobody answered. That was our first warning. We ignored it. Big mistake. Within 1 week, everybody knew Mrs. Bukola. Not because she was friendly, but because she complained about everything. Who parked close to my car? Whose child touched my flower? Who swept dirt near my door? Why is somebody frying fish? The smell entered my sitting room. Even rain annoyed her. One Saturday morning, heavy rain flooded part of the compound. Instead of helping, she stood under her umbrella shouting, "This landlord should fix drainage. This environment is embarrassing." Meanwhile, the rest of us were already clearing gutters together. Old Mama Bisi, who was over 65, was carrying buckets. Even teenagers were helping. Bukola? She stood there recording videos for social media. My followers, look at what I'm suffering. I whispered to my wife, suffering? We're the ones inside floodwater. Amaka pinched me. Leave her. I nodded. Some people, you simply avoid. One evening, I met our neighbor, Chinedu. He shook his head. My brother, I mistakenly greeted that woman this morning. What happened? She looked at me and said my slippers looked dirty. I laughed. You serious? He nodded. I've retired from greeting. The funny thing was, nobody actually knew what Bukola did for a living. Some people said she imported luxury goods. Others claimed she owned hotels. Some whispered she was dating politicians. Nobody knew. But money? She had plenty. Every weekend, new clothes, new wigs, new jewelry, new cars visiting, loud parties, expensive perfumes that announced her arrival before she even entered the compound. She liked showing off. Every conversation somehow returned to money. You know, when I traveled to Dubai, when I bought my second property, My designer shoes cost more than some people's monthly salary. She would say these things while looking directly at us, as if poverty was contagious. One Sunday after church, we were all outside greeting one another. Mama Bisi smiled at Bukola. My daughter, God bless you. Bukola looked at the old woman's faded wrapper. No greeting, nothing. She simply walked away. Mama Bisi forced a smile. But I saw the pain in her eyes. That woman had children older than Bukola. Respect costs nothing. Yet some people act as if it is too expensive. Months passed. Bukola became worse. One afternoon, our children were playing 10-10 in the compound. Normal children's game. Suddenly, we heard screaming. Who broke my flower pot? Everybody rushed outside. Bukola was dragging little Samuel by his shirt. Samuel was only 8. The poor boy was crying. I didn't do it. You liar! I saw you! His mother ran downstairs. Please leave my son. Bukola refused. She slapped the little boy. Silence. The whole compound froze. She had slapped someone's child. Samuel's mother rushed forward. What is wrong with you? Bukola pointed at the broken flower pot. He'll learn respect. I looked at the flower pot. Plastic. Worth maybe 8,000 naira. An 8-year-old child? She slapped him over that? Later, we discovered Samuel hadn't even broken it. A stray cat had jumped onto the fence. But did Bukola apologize? Never. Instead, she bought a bigger flower pot, as if that solved everything. That night, the compound WhatsApp group nearly exploded. Everyone complained. The landlord tried to calm us. Bukola simply exited the group. Problem solved, according to her. I should have known. People who never admit they're wrong eventually meet someone who won't let them escape. One Tuesday morning, I was leaving for work when I heard shouting near the gate. Bukola was arguing with the security man. You scratched my car. The old man looked terrified. Madam, I swear. Don't swear. She demanded 150,000 90 immediately. The poor man almost cried. My salary is 45,000 90. I don't care. I walked closer. Madam, I don't think Baba touched the car. She turned slowly. Did I ask for your opinion? No. The security guard looked at me with grateful eyes. I wanted to argue. Amaka touched my arm. Femi, let's go. I left. Sometimes wisdom is knowing when not to fight. But my heart hurt for Baba. Later, the landlord reviewed CCTV footage. It turned out Bukola herself had brushed the gate while reversing. The camera caught everything. Did she apologize? No. She simply collected the flash drive, deleted the footage, and acted as if nothing happened. People stopped talking whenever she appeared. Not because they respected her, because nobody wanted trouble. Children stopped playing near her flat. Visitors parked far away. Even hawkers avoided knocking on her door. Fear had become her perfume. Then came the incident that changed everything. It happened on a hot Friday afternoon, the kind of Lagos heat that makes even goats look tired. I had taken half-day leave because Zara wasn't feeling well. I saw Bukola shouting again. This time, at Mama Bisi. The old woman had mistakenly poured a small bucket of water while washing her veranda. A little splash reached Bukola's expensive heels. Instead of simply cleaning them, she exploded. You old witch, Mama Bisi apologized immediately. My daughter, forgive me. Bukola stepped closer. You village woman. I said I'm sorry. You people are animals. The old woman's hands trembled. Then, Bukola pushed her. Not hard enough to throw her across the compound, but enough. Mama Bisi lost her balance. She fell backwards. Her head hit the concrete floor. Gabam! Everything stopped. Even the birds seemed to go silent. Blood. Just a little, but blood nonetheless. For the first time, I saw fear flash across Bukola's face. Just for 1 second. Then, she straightened her dress, picked up her handbag. If she's that weak, she should stay indoors. She walked away, leaving an elderly woman lying on the ground. That was the day. Karma quietly stood outside her gate and knocked for the very first time. Nobody moved. For a few seconds, it felt as if time itself had frozen. "Mama Bissy!" Her daughter, Sade, screamed as she rushed downstairs barefoot, nearly slipping on the wet floor. She knelt beside her mother, her hands shaking. "Mama, Mama, open your eyes!" Mama Bissy groaned softly. There was a small cut at the back of her head, and blood trickled onto the concrete. My wife, Amaka, quickly ran inside and returned with a clean towel. "Femi, help me lift her carefully." I nodded. "Chinedu, help me." Together we gently carried Mama Bisi to my car. As we were about to leave, I looked towards Bukola's flat. Her curtains were closed. Her air conditioner was humming. It was as if nothing had happened. I clenched the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. Some people don't deserve the peace they enjoy. At the hospital, the doctor examined Mama Bisi. We waited outside the emergency room. Everyone was praying. After what felt like forever, the doctor walked out. "She's stable." A collective sigh of relief echoed through the corridor. But our hearts sank again. She suffered a mild concussion. Because of her age, we'll keep her under observation for at least 48 hours. Sade wiped tears from her face. "Thank you, doctor." As we walked out, Chinedu shook his head. "My brother. I've never seen a human being with a heart that hard." I didn't reply, because honestly I was running out of words to describe Bukola. The next morning, news of what happened had spread beyond our compound. Neighbors from nearby streets came to check on Mama Bisi. Even a landlord looked ashamed. He called an emergency meeting that evening. Everybody attended. Except one person, Bukola. She didn't even bother to come. Instead, she sent her housemaid with a message. "Madam says she's busy." Busy? After pushing an elderly woman? The landlord adjusted his glasses. This behavior cannot continue. "Then ask her to leave." Another voice joined in. "She's turned this compound into a military barracks." The landlord sighed. "I've spoken to her several times. And? She says everyone is jealous because she's successful." The whole compound burst into laughter. Not because it was funny, but because the excuse was ridiculous. Jealous? Nobody wanted her cars. Nobody wanted her designer handbags. People only wanted peace. That weekend, something unusual happened. A moving truck stopped in front of the last vacant flat. "Another tenant?" Chinedu whispered. We all watched from our balconies. Out stepped a man in his late 50s. Simple kaftan, leather sandals. No convoy, no loud music. Just a warm smile. He greeted everyone first. "Good afternoon, my people." "Good afternoon." The response came almost immediately. There was something calming about him. He introduced himself. "My name is Mr. Adewale. I'm newly retired. I hope we'll all be good neighbors." Mama Bisi's daughter smiled. "You are welcome, sir." Even the children gathered around him. Within 30 minutes, he already knew everyone's name, except Bukola's. She never came outside. The following Monday morning, I met Mr. Adewale near the gate. He was sweeping the front of his flat. "Good morning." "Morning, sir." He smiled. "You must be Femi." I blinked. "How did you know?" My ears are working. This compound likes gist. We both laughed. For the first time in months, the compound actually felt alive again. But peace never lasts long when people like Bukola are around. Around noon, a delivery item arrived. He mistakenly knocked on Mr. Adewale's door instead of Bukola's. Before the rider could apologize, Bukola stormed outside. "What nonsense is this?" The rider stammered. "I'm sorry, madam." She snatched the package from his hand. "You people are so useless." Mr. Adewale stepped forward gently. "Madam, the young man has apologized." She looked at him from head to toe. "And who are you?" "The new tenant." "Then stay out of my business." Instead of getting angry, he simply smiled. "God bless you." She hissed loudly and walked away. I expected Mr. Adewale to complain. Instead, he chuckled. "My son, some people are fighting battles we cannot see." His words stayed with me. Days turned into weeks. Something strange began happening. Bukola wasn't smiling as much anymore. Her expensive visitors stopped coming every weekend. The loud parties disappeared. Sometimes she'd stand on her balcony for hours, talking angrily on the phone. One afternoon, as I returned from work, I overheard part of a conversation. "No. I told you I'll pay. You can't embarrass me." She quickly noticed me and ended the call. For the first time, she looked worried. Really worried. A few days later, another incident happened. Around 7 p.m., two men in suits drove into the compound. They weren't smiling. They knocked on Bukola's door. The conversation quickly became loud. "We've given you enough time. You don't understand." "No, madam, you don't understand." The entire compound pretended not to watch, but everyone was watching. After nearly 30 minutes, the men left. Bukola slammed her door so hard that one of her flower pots cracked. The same flower pots she once slapped a little boy over. I looked at Chinedu. He whispered, "Something is cooking." I nodded slowly. Maybe. Just maybe. Life had finally started asking her the same hard questions she'd spent years asking everyone else. Meanwhile, Mama BC returned home from the hospital. The whole compound welcomed her with food, fruits, and prayers. Even the children made a welcome home card. Only one person never visited. Bukola. Not even once. No apology, no flowers, nothing. Mama BC simply smiled. "My children, leave her. God sees everything." Those words echoed in my mind, because in Nigeria, old people don't usually curse. They simply hand the matter over to God. And when they do, you'd better pray you're innocent. The next Friday, I came home earlier than usual. As I parked my car, I noticed Mr. Adewale sitting outside beneath the mango tree, reading a newspaper. He called me over. "Femi, come and sit." I joined him. After a few minutes of silence, he folded the newspaper. "My son, have you ever heard the saying, when a goat keeps eating from another man's farm, one day it will meet the owner?" I smiled. "Yes, sir." He looked towards Bukola's flat. "People think karma is always loud. It isn't. Sometimes it arrives quietly. It removes one block at a time until the whole building collapses." I followed his gaze. At that very moment, Bukola stepped onto her balcony. She looked tired. No makeup, no expensive sunglasses, no confidence, worry. She didn't even notice us. She was too busy staring at her phone. Then suddenly, she screamed, "No, no, this can't be happening." Her phone slipped from her hand and crashed onto the compound floor below. Everyone looked up. She covered her mouth. And for the first time since she moved into our compound, the woman who had made everyone else's lives miserable looked absolutely terrified. That scream. It wasn't the kind people made after seeing a cockroach. It wasn't even the kind you heard when someone received bad news. No. It was the scream of someone whose entire world had just shifted beneath their feet. Everybody in the compound rushed outside. Even the children stopped playing. Bukola was standing on her balcony, breathing heavily, both hands on her head. "My phone. My phone." She looked less concerned about the broken phone than whatever she had just seen before dropping it. Within seconds, she disappeared inside. Nobody knew what had happened. But one thing was obvious. Something had finally shaken the woman, who spent years shaking everybody else. That evening, as usual, the compound became a mini parliament. Nigerians don't need cable television when they have neighbors. Just bring plastic chairs outside, buy roasted corn or groundnuts, and conversation will flow until mosquitoes start collecting rent. Chinedu looked around before lowering his voice. "My people, I think Madam Big Girl is in trouble." Samuel's mother laughed. "Trouble? Since she came here, she's been trouble." Everyone burst into laughter. Even Mama Bisi smiled. Mr. Adewale, however, remained quiet. He stirred his cup of tea before speaking softly. "Don't rejoice too quickly." "Why, sir?" I asked. He smiled. "Because when someone's roof catches fire, the wise person first checks whether the wind is blowing towards their own house." We all fell silent. That was one thing about Mr. Adewale. He never spoke much. But whenever he did, you went home thinking about it. The following morning I was leaving for work when I noticed something unusual. Bukola's Lexus wasn't parked outside. Instead, a towing truck was loading it. She rushed outside, wearing slippers and a wrapper. No makeup, no designer handbag, nothing glamorous. She was arguing with two men. "You can't take my car." One of them opened a file. "Madam, we've sent you several notices. I told you I'll pay. You've been saying that for 4 months." 4 months? The compound watched from windows and balconies. Nobody spoke. The men drove away with the car. Bukola stood there watching until the truck disappeared. For the first time, she looked small. Not because she had changed, but because the pride she always wore had suddenly disappeared. By lunchtime, the gossip had reached every corner of the compound. Some said the car was bought on loan. Others claimed she'd used fake documents. Another neighbor insisted she'd offended a politician. Nobody knew the truth. But in Lagos, rumor travels faster than Okada. When I returned from work that evening, I met Bukola at the gate. Normally, she'd walk past without greeting anyone. She actually spoke. "Good evening." I almost looked behind me. Was she greeting someone else? "No, good evening," I replied. She nodded awkwardly and walked away. Chinedu, who had witnessed everything, whispered, "Femi, did miracle just happen?" I laughed. Maybe. 2 days later, the miracle disappeared. Apparently, humility wasn't staying long. A water pipe burst in the compound, affecting all 6 flats. The landlord informed everyone, "We'll contribute equally for repairs." Everybody agreed. When it was Bukola's turn, she folded her arms. "I'm not paying." The landlord blinked. "Madam, everyone is contributing." "I hardly use the water." Samuel's mother couldn't hold herself. "You wash your car every weekend." Bukola shot her a deadly look. "I wasn't talking to you." The argument continued for nearly 20 minutes. Eventually, Mr. Adewale quietly paid Bukola's share. The landlord protested. "No, sir. Leave it." Even Bukola looked surprised. As everyone dispersed, I walked beside him. "Sir, why did you pay for someone who has never done anything good for anybody?" He chuckled. "My son, kindness is not a reward. It's a choice." Then he added something that made me pause. "Besides, very soon, she'll need far more than water." Those words would make sense sooner than we imagined. One rainy Tuesday afternoon, I was working in my office when Amaka called. "Femi, are you busy?" "A little." "You need to come home early today." My heart skipped. "What happened?" She lowered her voice. "Police came to the compound." I stood up immediately. "Police?" "Yes." They went straight to Bukola's flat. Lagos traffic had never felt longer. By the time I got home, the police vehicle was gone. Half the compound was outside discussing what had happened. "Femi, you won't believe today's episode." "What happened?" She looked around dramatically. "They searched her house." "What?" "They carried documents, computers, files, even expensive jewelry boxes." I frowned. "Did they arrest her?" "No, but they told her not to leave Lagos." The compound buzzed with whispers. Nobody had expected things to escalate so quickly. Later that night, I stood on my balcony. Around midnight, I saw her sitting alone in her living room. No television, no music, just silence. She held a framed photograph in her hands. Then, to my surprise, she started crying. Not the fake crying people do when they want sympathy. Real tears, heavy tears. I quietly stepped back inside. Whatever storm she was facing, it was getting stronger. The next weekend brought another surprise. A woman arrived at the compound with 2 young children. She knocked repeatedly on Bukola's door. After several minutes, Bukola opened it. The woman immediately slapped her. The sound echoed through the compound. Everyone rushed outside. "You ruined my family," the woman shouted. "You promised my husband business. You collected all our savings. My children haven't been in school for 3 months." Bukola looked around in panic. "Lower your voice." "I will not. You said you would double our money. You lied. Mummy. Yeah, I'm hungry. That simple sentence pierced everyone's heart. The woman pointed at Bukola. You bought cars with people's sweat. You wore expensive clothes while our children suffered. Bukola tried closing the door. The woman blocked it. No. Today, everybody will hear. Neighbors gathered around. The woman continued. There are dozens of us. You promised investments. You disappeared with our money. The compound fell silent. Suddenly, the flashy lifestyle, the mysterious visitors, the endless phone calls, the expensive image. It had all been built on other people's pain. Bukola finally managed to shut the door. The woman stood outside crying. Mr. Adewale walked over quietly. He gave her a bottle of water and a chair. Calm down, my daughter. She wiped her tears. I trusted her. I sold my jewelry. My husband borrowed money. We've lost everything. That night, no one slept early. For years, we'd wondered where Bukola's wealth came from. Now, the truth had started coming out. But something told me this wasn't even half of the story. Because sometimes, the first knock of karma is only to let you know the real visitor is still outside the door. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to True Life Diaries, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next emotional and unforgettable Nigerian lifestyle story. Now tell me in the comments, do you think Bukola deserves a second chance? Or should she face the full consequences of her actions? By Monday morning, the entire compound had changed. Nobody was talking about football anymore. Nobody cared that fuel had increased again. Even the women who usually argued over whose child broke whose bucket had forgotten their quarrel. There was only one topic: Bukola. As I prepared for work, Amaka handed me my lunch bag. You know what? What? I almost feel sorry for her. I looked at her. You? The same person who refused to greet you for 3 years? I know. But have you noticed? What? She's no longer shouting. I paused. It was true. For the first time since Bukola moved into the compound, peace had become louder than her voice. On my way to work, Chinedu called me. My brother, you've not seen today's news? What news? Check WhatsApp. As soon as I got into the office, I opened the message. Someone had forwarded a screenshot from a popular Lagos gossip blog. Luxury. Businesswoman accused of multi-million naira investment scam. The article didn't mention her full name. But the photographs, there was no mistake. It was Bukola. Designer dress, designer smile. The same smile she'd worn while looking down on everyone. Only now, people were commenting underneath. She deserves jail. She collected my cousin's money too. This woman has been doing this for years. My stomach tightened. That evening, when I got home, 3 more people were standing outside the compound gate. They weren't visitors, they were victims. An elderly mechanic, a pregnant woman, a young man who couldn't have been older than 25. Each of them had a file in hand. Each of them wanted one thing: their money. The security man shook his head. Madam, no day open gate. The mechanic laughed bitterly. She fit hide today. She no fit hide forever. Bukola had become a prisoner in her own home. The woman who once walked around proudly in expensive heels now peeped through her curtains before opening her door. She only came out late at night to throw away rubbish. Even then, she looked over her shoulder. Fear had finally become her neighbor. That Wednesday, rain fell heavily across Lagos. The compound flooded as usual. Everyone came outside with brooms and buckets. Even Mama Bisi insisted on helping. My children. If we wait for government, we go old finish. Everybody laughed. Mr. Adewale rolled up his trousers. Let's work. We cleared the blocked drainage together. As we worked, Bukola's front door opened. She stood there watching us. Nobody spoke to her. Nobody insulted her either. She was simply invisible. Perhaps that hurt more. After a few moments, she surprised everyone. Can I help? Silence. Samuel almost dropped his bucket. Chinedu whispered to me. Did she really say help? I nodded slowly. Mama Bisi smiled gently. Bring that shovel. Bukola hesitated. Then she stepped into the muddy water. Within seconds, her expensive slippers sank into the mud. The children couldn't help laughing. She looked embarrassed. For a second I thought she'd shout. Instead, she laughed too. A small laugh. Awkward, but genuine. It was the first time anyone had heard it. That evening, she knocked on Mama Bisi's door. The whole compound noticed. Old Mama Bisi opened it. Bukola stood there, holding a small basket of fruits. Her hands were trembling. She swallowed hard. I'm sorry. Mama Bisi didn't answer immediately. Bukola continued. I've wanted to say it many times. But my pride. She wiped her eyes. I pushed you. I insulted you. I behaved like. She couldn't finish the sentence. Mama Bisi gently took the basket. My daughter. Come inside. Nobody knew what they discussed. Almost an hour later, Bukola came out. Her eyes were red, but somehow, she looked lighter, as if she'd been carrying a heavy load for years. The following day, another surprise arrived. A black SUV stopped outside the compound. Everybody became nervous. More police? Instead, a neatly dressed elderly man stepped out. Gray beard, walking stick, simple white kaftan. He asked the security guard, Is Bukola here? The security man nodded. The man slowly walked to her flat. About 10 minutes later, voices became louder. You lied to me. The old man's voice echoed through the compound. I defended you. I trusted you. Then came silence. A few minutes later, the man walked out, shaking his head. As he passed Mr. Adewale, he stopped. You know her? Mr. Adewale nodded politely. We live in the same compound. The old man sighed deeply. I trained that girl. Everybody looked at him. I paid for her university. I gave her first office. I introduced her to business. His voice broke. She has repaid me with shame. Then he quietly entered his car and drove away. That night, I couldn't stop thinking, how does someone receive so much kindness and still choose to hurt people? Mr. Adewale answered that question without me asking. We were sitting outside after dinner. He looked at the stars before speaking. Femi, money doesn't change people. It only reveals who they've always been. I nodded. So, can people change? He smiled. They can. But first, they must lose the person they pretended to be. Bukola did something nobody expected. She called a compound meeting. Everybody came. She stood in front of us wearing a plain Ankara dress. No jewelry, no expensive wig, no designer handbag. Just Bukola. The real Bukola. She took a deep breath. I don't deserve your forgiveness. Nobody interrupted. I've insulted you. I've looked down on you. I've hurt your children. I pushed Mama Bisi. I accused innocent people. Tears rolled down her cheeks. And the money. I invested it badly. I lied because I was ashamed. I kept borrowing from new people to pay old people. My life became one big lie. The compound remained silent. She continued. I don't expect anyone to pity me. I only came to say, I'm sorry. When she finished, nobody clapped, nobody cheered, because some wounds are too deep for applause. Then something remarkable happened. Mama Bisi slowly stood up. She walked over to Bukola. Everyone held their breath. She gently held Bukola's hands. My daughter. When a child falls, the mother doesn't throw the child away. She teaches the child how to stand. Bukola burst into tears. Real tears. The kind that cleanse the heart. Even Chinedu quietly wiped his eyes. He later denied it. It was rain. We all laughed. There was no rain. I said it was emotional rain. As everyone started leaving, a police siren echoed outside the gate. 2 police vehicles entered the compound. 4 officers stepped out. The lead officer unfolded a document. Mrs. Bukola Adeyemi? She slowly raised her hand. Yes. We have a warrant for your arrest. The compound froze. Bukola looked at Mama Bisi, then at Mr. Adewale. then at all of us. Without resisting, she stretched out her hands. The officer reached for the handcuffs, but paused, because from the crowd, a voice suddenly shouted, "Officer, wait." The person walking towards the police would change everything. If this story has kept you glued to your screen, this is the perfect time to like, subscribe to True Life Diaries, and share this video with someone who believes that no matter how long it takes, karma always arrives. And tell me in the comments, if you were one of Bukola's victims, would you forgive her after her apology? Or would you still want justice? In next part, you'll discover who stopped the police, whether Bukola goes to prison, and why the biggest twist in this story has been hiding in plain sight all along. Officer, wait. Every head turned towards the gate. Even the policeman paused. A woman in her early 60s walked into the compound, holding a walking stick in one hand and a brown envelope in the other. She wasn't dressed like a rich woman. A simple Ankara gown, a pair of old sandals, a faded head tie. Yet there was something about the way she carried herself that commanded respect. Bukola looked at her, and suddenly turned pale. "No," she whispered, "not Mama." The woman stopped a few feet away from the police. She looked at Bukola for a long moment, not with anger, not with hatred, but with disappointment, the kind only a mother can show. The entire compound became silent. Even the children sensed this wasn't the time to play. The lead police officer stepped forward. "Madam, who are you?" The woman answered calmly, "I'm her mother." Samuel whispered to his friend, "That's her mummy?" His friend nodded dramatically, like he knew the whole story. Children and exaggeration, they're like rice and stew. Bukola couldn't look her mother in the eyes. Instead, she stared at the ground. The old woman raised her hand. "Don't call me Mama yet." The words landed harder than any slap. She turned to the officers. "Please, may I speak to my daughter for 5 minutes?" The lead officer checked his watch. "You have 5 minutes." Everyone moved back. Nobody left. We all pretended not to listen, while listening with both ears. The old woman faced Bukola. "I warned you." Bukola said nothing. "I told you. Money that comes without peace will leave without warning." Still silence. "I begged you to return people's money. You refused. I begged you to stop pretending. You refused." Tears rolled down Bukola's cheeks. "I was ashamed. I know. But pride kept feeding your shame." Then she held up the brown envelope. "I've sold my land." Bukola's eyes widened. "No. I've paid part of what I could." The whole compound gasped. Her mother had sold her own land to settle debts she didn't create? Bukola fell to her knees. "Mama." This time, the old woman didn't stop her. She knelt beside her daughter. "My child, I didn't sell the land because you deserve it. I sold it because innocent people deserve peace." Those words pierced every heart in the compound. Even the policeman looked away. The lead officer walked forward again. "Madam, I'm sorry, but the case has gone beyond money. There are criminal allegations." The old woman nodded slowly. "I understand." She turned to Bukola. "Face the consequences. Don't run anymore." Bukola wiped her tears. She nodded, without arguing. "I'll go." As the officers prepared to escort her to the vehicle, another voice interrupted. "Officer," it was Mr. Adewale. He walked towards them calmly. "I have something to say." The officer recognized him. "Yes, sir? I know the judge handling this case." Everyone looked at him. "I am not asking you to release her. I'm only asking that she be allowed to surrender peacefully tomorrow morning." The officer frowned. "Why?" "So she can spend one final night doing the right thing." After a brief discussion among themselves, the officers agreed. "You have until 9 a.m. If she doesn't report, we'll come back." Bukola whispered, "I'll be there." The police drove away. That night, no one in the compound slept early. Around 8 p.m., there was a knock on our door. I opened it. It was Bukola. She wasn't carrying designer bags anymore. Instead, she held a notebook. "Femi, I need your help." I was surprised. "My help? Please, I've made a list." She opened the notebook. Every page contained names, phone numbers, amounts, People she'd collected money from. Some amounts were small, 50,000 Naji, 100,000 Naji. Others ran into millions. She looked at me. I don't even know where to begin. I sighed. Sit down. Amaka served her a cup of tea. For the first time since we'd known her, she accepted it with both hands. Thank you. The three of us worked until almost midnight. We arranged names, calculated balances, listed people who had already received partial refunds. At one point, Bukola suddenly stopped writing. I used to laugh at people who couldn't afford food. Today, I've not eaten since morning. Amaka quietly stood up. She returned with a plate of hot jollof rice and chicken. Bukola stared at it. I don't deserve this. Amaka smiled. Maybe not. But you're hungry. Bukola broke down crying. Sometimes, kindness hurts more than revenge. The next morning, by 8:30 a.m., the entire compound had gathered. Nobody wanted to miss what happened. Bukola stepped outside, wearing a plain navy blue gown. She carried only a handbag and the notebook. Before entering the waiting police vehicle, she turned to everyone. I don't know if I'll ever come back here. I only want to say thank you. She looked at Mama Bisi. I'm sorry. She looked at Samuel. I'm sorry. She looked at the security guard. I'm sorry. Finally, she faced the entire compound. I spent years believing respect could be bought. I've now learnt it can only be earned. The police drove away. Nobody spoke until the siren disappeared. Weeks passed. Life slowly returned to normal. Children played football again. Neighbors laughed together again. Peace returned to the compound. One evening, Mr. Adewale invited everyone for tea beneath the mango tree. As we chatted, Samuel asked the question everyone had been thinking. Uncle Adewale, will Auntie Bukola come back? I don't know. But I hope, if she returns as a different person. 3 months later, on a bright Saturday morning, a taxi stopped outside the compound. Out stepped a familiar figure. She was carrying 2 small bags. Nothing more. It was Bukola. She looked thinner, calmer, older somehow. The landlord greeted her first. Welcome back. She smiled nervously. Thank you. One by one, neighbors greeted her. No excitement, no celebration. Exactly what she denied everyone for years. As she reached Mama Bisi's door, she knocked softly. The old woman opened it. Without saying a word, she hugged Bukola. And Bukola cried like a little child. Sometimes, the greatest punishment isn't prison. It's living long enough to realize how much pain you've caused. And the greatest blessing is being given a chance to make things right. People often say, when karma comes, it finishes everything. But I've learned something different. Sometimes, karma doesn't come to destroy you. Sometimes, it comes to destroy the version of you that has been destroying everyone else. 3 months after Bukola returned, our compound felt different. Not because the buildings had changed. Not because the landlord finally painted the walls. Those things were still the same. Every morning before 6 a.m., she swept not only the front of her flat, but the entire compound, before anyone else woke up. At first, we thought she was pretending. Nigerians are naturally suspicious, especially after someone has disappointed us. Chinedu laughed one morning. My brother Femi? Give her 2 weeks. She'll soon return to factory settings. I laughed. You and your mouth. He shrugged. I'm just saying. But 2 weeks passed, then 1 month, then 2. She got a modest job in a tailoring shop owned by one of her distant relatives. No manager's office, no air conditioning, no executive chair. She attended to customers, swept the shop, packed finished clothes. Sometimes she worked until 8 p.m. One afternoon, I passed by the shop on my way home. She was measuring fabric for a customer. She looked up and smiled. Femi, you came? I was passing. She laughed. You won't believe it. What? I've learned how to sew school uniforms. The same Bukola that once said ordinary people annoyed her? She covered her face. Please don't remind me. We both laughed. For the first time, The laughter wasn't forced. One Saturday, the compound organized a sanitation exercise. Usually people complained. Not this time. Everyone came outside. Music was playing from someone's Bluetooth speaker. The children danced while carrying tiny brooms. Mama BC supervised like she was the Minister of Environment. Samuel! Don't sweep dirt into the gutter. Carry it properly. Yes, Grandma. Bukola worked harder than everyone else. When the exercise ended, the landlord stood up. I have an announcement. Everyone looked at him. Our compound has won the cleanest compound award in the community. Everybody cheered. The prize wasn't huge, just a certificate and some cleaning equipment. But we celebrated as if we'd won the AFCON. A week later, something happened that surprised all of us. The woman who had slapped Bukola, the one whose husband lost all their savings, returned. She walked into the compound, carrying a small nylon bag. Bukola saw her and immediately stood up. I'm sorry. Before she could finish, the woman handed her the bag. Inside were oranges. I came to thank you. Bukola looked confused. Thank me? The woman nodded. You've been sending part of your salary every month. I know it's not much, but you've never missed one payment. I still owe you plenty. I know. The woman held her hands. But this time, I believe you'll finish paying. Then she hugged her. Several neighbors quietly wiped away tears. Life wasn't suddenly perfect. Bukola still attended court hearings. She still faced legal consequences for her actions. The judge ordered her to continue restitution to victims, perform community service, and comply with the law. Justice wasn't canceled. It simply walked alongside mercy. And somehow, that seemed right. One evening, as we sat under the mango tree, Samuel asked the question everyone had secretly wanted answered. Uncle Adewale, who are you really? We all laughed, because we'd wondered the same thing. Mr. Adewale folded his newspaper. What do you mean? Chinedu grinned. Sir, you know judges. You know police. You know lawyers. You speak like a professor. You even settle quarrels like village elders. So, who exactly are you? Then, he adjusted his glasses. I suppose it's time. The compound became quiet. I retired as a high court judge. Everybody gasped. Samuel's football rolled away unnoticed. You were a judge? He nodded. For 32 years. Mama Bisi laughed loudly. I knew it. I told these people. Chinedu scratched his head. So all this time, you were just watching us? Mr. Adewale chuckled. No. I was learning. Learning what? I asked. That every case is bigger than the file. Behind every bad decision, there's usually a broken heart. But, he raised one finger. A broken heart must never become an excuse to break other people's lives. Nobody spoke, because there was nothing to add. Months turned into a year. One by one, Bukola repaid more victims. She sold her remaining jewelry. She sold expensive furniture. She even gave up a piece of land she'd been hiding. Every time she cleared another debt, she smiled. Not because losing property made her happy, but because peace had finally become more valuable than possessions. Then came the day none of us expected. The tailoring shop owner fell seriously ill. Customers stopped coming. The business was about to close. Bukola gathered the workers. We can't let this place die. But what can we do? One of them asked. She thought for a moment, then smiled. I know. Using everything she learned from her mistakes, she created honest payment plans. Transparent records. Receipts for every customer. Weekly updates. No lies, no false promises. Slowly, customers returned. Within 6 months, the small tailoring shop became one of the busiest in Surulere. People trusted them. Not because they were perfect, but because they were honest. One Sunday after church, the entire compound gathered for Mama Bisi's 70th birthday. Long tables filled with jollof rice, fried rice, moi moi, peppered turkey, grilled fish, and chilled drinks stretched across the courtyard. Children ran around laughing. Music filled the air. Mama Bisi stood to speak. My children, when I fell that day, I thought I had lost something. She smiled at Bukola. But today, I know I gained another daughter. Bukola immediately started crying. No, Mama. You don't have to. Shh. Enough. The past has finished. The compound erupted in applause. As the sun began to set, I stood beside Mr. Adewale. We watched everyone laughing together. Can you imagine? The same compound where neighbors once avoided each other had become like one family. I smiled. Sir, you were right. About what? I told you. It doesn't always shout. It simply keeps knocking. And when you finally open the door, it asks one question. What question? He smiled. Will you change? If there's one lesson I took from everything that happened, it's this. Never mistake success for character. Never mistake wealth for wisdom. And never think the pain you cause others will disappear simply because time has passed. Because life has an incredible memory. What you plant, you will eventually harvest. Sometimes quickly, sometimes years later, but always at the right time. As for Bukola, she never became the richest woman in Lagos. She never bought another luxury SUV. She never returned to the flashy life she once loved. Instead, she became something far more valuable, a woman people could finally trust. And in the end, that was worth more than all the designer bags in the world. Thank you so much for watching True Life Diaries. If this story touched your heart, remember to like this video, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next powerful Nigerian lifestyle story. Now tell us in the comments, do you believe people can truly change? Or do some mistakes stay with a person forever? Your thoughts might inspire someone who needs them today. Until next time, stay kind, stay humble, and remember, no matter how long it takes, karma always knows your address.